James Franklin lost yesterday. Penn State lost yesterday. Interesting experience post-game. Talked to a bunch of Penn State fans in the stands as it was emptying out. I mean, stopping at gas stations up there. Folks are coming up to me and saying, don't hold back tomorrow night. Say what needs to be said. Just be honest. You don't need to treat us with kid gloves. And, the overwhelming sentiment was, what more could we do, man? Like, we as a Penn State people, a PSP, what more could we do? Kind of the same sentiment that I get from A&M fans. What more can we do? We give. Emotionally, financially, we give. And we're not getting the result that we want. We're not bad. Penn State's a lot better off as a team right now than A&M was. We're not bad, but we're not aiming to be a solid 3 in the Big Ten. That's not the goal here. And I'm not suggesting it's the goal of James Franklin. I'm just saying you kind of sound like a fence rider, I guess. You can label me if you want to. Kind of get both sides of that too. I'm one who sits here and defends James Franklin, and I'll give you the reason for that in a second. But if I'm a Penn State fan, dude, there's no way that I'm sitting in the stands yesterday watching a horrific offensive performance as the one we saw yesterday and just stomaching that. I'd want change. By the way, we got change today. James Franklin earlier this afternoon fired Mike Yursich. He relieved him of his duties as offensive coordinator. So obviously he didn't look at it much more favorably than we did. But the current situation there, I hate to put it this way, is a championship caliber defense is going to be wasted. Not wasted in a sense that there's nothing gained this year. This could be a 10-win team. But it is a program that has produced a team this year that had goals and aspirations much higher than that. So action's been taken. This doesn't save anything this year, but it was tough. It was tough to stand there and watch that excuse for an offensive performance yesterday. Just nothing. There was never a threat. You never felt like they were a threat to do anything. It was almost like a yawn for Michigan's defensive backs. There wasn't really much to pay attention to for them the entire afternoon. So the program isn't miles away. But as you could imagine, I came on the show last week. I, again, shared what I thought was common sense, and what I shared was I never called Franklin an elite head coach. I've never called Penn State an elite program. I'm very intentional with my words. I say they're a very good program. I say Franklin is a good to very good head coach. What that means is there are not a ton of coaches I would list above him. There are a ton of coaches I would list beneath him. So naturally, someone comes at you every time he loses a game, and then they say, well, what now? What now? So last week, I tried to put a number next to this, and I came up with the stat, which is now 3-17 against top 10 teams in his time at Penn State. And I said, well, that doesn't prove he's overrated because he's only been a favorite in one of those games. And he won that game, and he's won 2 other games. And people had a problem. They said, well, point spreads aren't the best metric. Instead, hype. Media hype, that's what makes him overrated. Dude, I don't care about media hype. I'm telling you, the barometer I choose to judge how you're performing against an expectation is the barometer of people who set lines on these games for a living. I do not care what your salary is. I know that's a little bit of a controversial take. I don't care what your salary is, and I don't care what media says about you. And I say that as a dude who's part of media. I don't care. To me, your salary, and I'm not saying this about Franklin, I'm saying this as a general thought, your salary sometimes is just proof that your boosters were dumb enough to pay you that much money. Again, that's not aimed towards Franklin. That is a generic comeback I always have when people want to tell me, well, since he makes this much, we should expect this from him. I don't think that way. I understand people who do. I just have a different philosophy on that. I want to know what the smartest expectation level in the room is that's been set for you. How are you performing relative to that? So anyway, Franklin lost a game yesterday he was supposed to lose in terms of point spread. And I had folks coming at me, obviously, saying, well, what do you think about him now? I think the same thing I thought last week. I think he's a really good coach in a conference where you're going to have to be better than really good to win it. I think there are 2 above him, and I think there are, 11 beneath him. So that is the definition of pretty good. And it's not elite, and I've never said it is, and yet I have this argument, and every time I do, well, he's never won a national title. Yeah, I didn't say he was. That would make him elite. Well, where are the conference championships? Well, he's got 1. That's it. I didn't say he was elite, though. People give me reasoning, and it's fill in the blank. Like, why is he not, and whatever's in the blank is equivalent to elite. And I say, well, the reason is because I never said he was elite. So you're not disagreeing with me, even though you think you are. That program's not far away. It's not miles away. There are, like I said last year, and I'll say it again this year, you got to make minor changes to get major results. You'd be just shocked at what the right hire at offensive coordinator, for example, could do here. Hey, what's the right hire at defensive coordinator done for him? The problem is you don't just get to maintain all that. Like, you don't get to keep Manny Diaz forever. You don't get to keep that caliber of defense forever and just keep trying things offensively. That's why you got to thread the needle when you have these windows, because they're not guaranteed.